So this is a really quick video on the basics of growing seeds, starting things from seeds. It's going to be quick, and I hope you're going to learn something, because it's amazing doing this for decades how I meet people who still don't even know the basics. So this is how I like to start my seeds, because it keeps them organized. It keeps them from contamination. And the first thing you have to understand is seeds germinate through heat, not light. So it's more important to keep them consistently warm from underneath, like using a heating pad or a electric blanket or tricking out something like that, than it is to have them out in the sun. All the sun is doing is warming the soil. I save these plastic containers. This is a Costco croissant container, but you could use donut containers, your strawberry containers, grape containers, and they act like little mini greenhouses. And then you just get permanent markers. You can get them at the dollar store now, $1.25 store now. And I make my rows and mark it all on the top. And that way, when I sow my seeds, I don't get confused. I don't lose the labels. And this makes an amazing mini greenhouse. The soil, you don't have to fill it up all the way either. You only want to put about a ½ an inch of soil, or a little less than halfway, in the container, because seeds don't need depth. They don't need depth. They just need to germinate. And what this can do, if you run out of time, like I made today, you can see that my seedlings are getting really tall and leggy. And that's when they get unhealthy and eventually will fall over, because they're trying to stretch towards the light. But if I run out of time today, I can take my soil and go ahead and fill it all the way up to the top of my container. And then suddenly these will be half the length they are. And that entire rest of that length of the stem of the seedling that's under the soil will start to form a root system, making really strong plants versus really leggy ones. Another one of my tricks is that when I moisten my soil, you want to pre-moisten your soil. And this is the soil I used this year, and I was really happy. It's not the cheapest soil, but I got incredible results. It's the Miracle-Gro Moisture Control Potting Mix, because you don't want your soil to get too wet, because when it gets too wet, it makes the seedlings prone to rot. And it also can make the containment prone to mold. And you don't want either one of those things, so they both kill seedlings. Another thing I do, I pre-moisten my soil before I put it in the container. Why it's important to pre-moisten your soil, and I did it right in the bag here. And when you moisten the soil, you don't want it too wet, you don't want it too dry, you want it to clump like this. Excuse me. No more than that. And if you do it in the bag, it makes it really easy, and it saves you the mess of having to pour it out and do it somewhere. Because what a lot of people do, they put bone dry soil in their container, then they put their delicate little seedlings and a little layer of soil on top, and then when they water it in, they can't see that the water isn't hitting the seedlings, that there's this inconsistency, and those seeds won't germinate because water's not hitting them, or it's so dry that when they go to water it, the soil's getting knocked all over the place, and then their seeds get all mixed up. I'm sure you've done this before. We all have when we've been learning. Okay, so the next tip I have, expert tip. Use a spray bottle in the last part of moistening the top of your soil. You can also spray this directly on the seedlings before you put your light layer of soil on top of them. You don't want to bury your seeds too deeply, because that's when they have trouble reaching above the soil level, and they will burn out and rot before they reach the soil level. The nice thing about using these containers is you barely ever have to water, because it holds the moisture in there. You take your spray bottle, and just your average size spray bottle that you would use to mist plants, or use to mix some type of detergent, some type of cleaner for the house. And I want you to add 2 tablespoons of peroxide. Nothing fancy. Dollar store peroxide works great. That peroxide will help to oxygenate the soil and keep it from getting contaminated. And as you can see, some of these seedlings are literally from 2012, 2014, and look at them, because I banked them properly, and that they just love that peroxide. Okay, I'm going to show you one more thing, and then I'm going to wrap up my video. People buy fancy dollar store, 28 cups for $1.25 now. It's all we need. Then we're going to write directly onto the cup with our permanent marker. I got some fancy heirlooms, so we're going to do a Kosovo pink. So here's a crazy one for you, viewers. I've been banking seeds and collecting seeds all over the world for over 20 years. And I have 55 to 56 different varieties of just heirloom tomatoes. So not one of those is a beefsteak or an early girl or a cherry tomato, just a plain one. So this is a Kosovo pink. Then I've already taken this knife, or you can use any kind of puncturing tool, and I've punctured holes in the bottom of my cup. This is kind of nice because I'm using this table that has holes, and I can just go pop, 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 and it keeps it simple, quick, and clean. Next, I'm going to fill my cup up with soil. Now, when you're filling your cup up with soil, you want it to be firm, but don't press it too hard. You want to make sure there's not any air pockets, and we're going to take it a little bit below the lip line. So you're going to make sure that you're patting it down, but don't smash it down. Don't make it too firm. You don't want it too fluffy. You don't want it too firm. And if there's big chunks of wood like this, we're going to get those out of the way, because those also have a chance of contaminating the soil more. Okay, then the best tool for doing seedlings is a chopstick. We're going to go really deep in the middle of our cup. Sorry, I have one hand. Really deep, and make a decent hole, going almost all the way to the bottom with our chopstick. Then we're going to take our seedlings, and because I have too many seedlings, I'm going to do 2 instead of 1. We're going to take our chopstick and make sure the roots are pressed all the way down. And we're going to take, this is the big mistake that people make. Most people take the seedling and they put it up here where it's all leggy and everything. No, 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 no. Even these super tall ones, we're going to take all the way down to the leaf, the first leaf. And then we're going to like gently pack that in there. So see how our little leaves are right on or right above the soil line. So what this is going to do, this is going to give that entire stem the chance to turn into a root system and make really strong plants. Even when you buy the tomato plants from the store and put them in the ground, you don't put your plants at soil level. You want to plant at least 1/2 to 3/4 of that stem below the soil level, and that entire stem will turn into a root system, and you'll have a much stronger plant and a lot more tomatoes. So there you go. It's a quick 10-minute 101 on the right way to do seedlings. Next, I'm going to put a little more water in here, and that's really important because there could be air pockets. Those roots might not be making contact with the soil underneath, and there's no way to see that. So I'm going to put a little bit more water on there, and then I'm going to add it to my tray. This is going back out to the greenhouse. And as you see, I have a very busy couple days ahead of me because this is a one-man show. Here's some of my crazy varieties. So look at, you can see the stems on these, how they're that crazy darker purple color versus these. And that's the funny thing, if you're not familiar with the world of heirloom tomatoes, every color, every size, and they all have different flavors. I have a green cherry tomato that almost tastes smoky. It's so savory. And then your pink tomatoes, like your pink Japanese, well, as you saw, I have my Kosovo pink here. Pink Mexican ribbed is really good if you live somewhere very hot. And they tend to be very sweet tomatoes and very good for salad because they're a sweeter tomato, where your red tomatoes are more acidic. And that's good with red meat or good to can with. You have paste tomatoes. Your paste tomatoes are all denser with less water. So those are all great for canning sauces also. And then you have your cherry tomatoes, and they have every color you can imagine now, and each one has a different flavor. I highly recommend the Black Russian, and if you can find it, the green cherry tomato is outstanding. This is only one tray of my tomatoes. I have several more in the greenhouse. And again, I've been saving these tomatoes for over 20 years. And that's why I have things like a pink oxheart or a sexy beast, yellow Ukrainian, a dwarf yellow, violet jasper, a white tomato, a black cat, big pink watermelon, big Bertha, Wappa peach. Yeah, this is just a small taste of the world of tomatoes. It can get very, very addictive, but it's a wonderful thing to invest your time in. And of course, why do I do more seeds than I can grow? Because this is a lovely way to share your wealth with others. I always give lots of tomatoes every year away to people because I want people to be connected to nature. I want them to grow their own food. I want them to have that experience of growing something themselves, especially these days where people feel so out of control. And instead of taking personal accountability and taking control of their lives, they tend to slip into victim mode, blame mode, conspiracy mode. Just go plant something. Connect to a garden. A garden is the fairest and most fantastic relationship you will ever have, because 9 times out of 10, it's not only going to give back to you what you put into it, but it's going to give back to you 100 times more. That's it. If you like my channel, and I want to thank the 14,000 people that do, please subscribe. It helps. A thumbs up is always great. And I want you to take care of yourselves and take care of each other, because I believe how we treat each other on the streets, that's our ultimate reality. Aren't they beautiful? Yes.